My daughter begged me to come home for the holidays. After a 10-hour flight, she opened the door. No greeting, no hug. She just said, "You will be staying to babysit the kids. Tomorrow we are leaving on a trip." My son-in-law laughed. "Do not wipe your noses on her, kids." Everyone laughed. I just smiled and said one thing, and that was when they lost control. But let me tell you how I got to that moment, because what happened after those words changed everything. 3 weeks earlier, my phone rang at 11 o'clock at night. It was Chloe, my daughter, who had not called me in 8 months, only sending short text messages every now and then. "Mom," her voice sounded sweet, almost like when she was a little girl. "I miss you so much. The kids ask about you every day. Why do you not come for the holidays? It would be so nice to have you here." I felt my chest tighten. Leo and Mia, my grandchildren, 7 and 4 years old. For the last few months, I had settled for quick video calls where they barely saw me before Chloe would say, "It is time for dinner," and hang up. I wanted to believe this invitation was sincere. I wanted to believe my daughter finally missed me. "Do you really want me to come?" I asked, hating myself for sounding so hopeful. "Of course, Mom. The house feels empty without you. Besides, you know how December is. I need help with the kids, with the Christmas Eve dinner. With you, everything is easier." There it was. That word. Need. I should have noticed it then. But a mother's heart is stubborn, and mine was already buying the plane ticket before my head could protest. I spent $850 on that flight, almost half of my monthly pension. But I told myself it was worth it. That I would see my grandchildren. That maybe, just maybe, Chloe and I could recover some of what we had lost since she married Julian. The day of the trip, I woke up at 4 in the morning. I baked homemade chocolate chip cookies, Leo's favorites. I packed the gifts I had been buying with so much care. A robot for Leo, a dollhouse for Mia. Simple things, but bought with love and the few dollars I could save. 10 hours of flying. 10 hours imagining my grandchildren's faces when they saw me at the door. 10 hours convincing myself that Chloe had changed, that time had softened her. I arrived at their house at sunset, a massive house in a gated community in a wealthy Chicago suburb, with a perfect lawn and 2 brand new cars in the driveway. Julian made good money as a sales director, very good money. But he had never been generous, not even with his own mother-in-law. I rang the doorbell. I heard footsteps. The door opened, and there was Chloe, hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, wearing an expensive blouse that I recognized from the boutiques she used to mock me for not being able to afford. She looked at me as if I were the person coming to clean the windows. "Mom, you made it." Not a hug, not even a warm smile, just a nod pointing inside. "Come in. Leave your suitcase there." Something cold pierced my stomach. But I smiled. I always smile. "Hello, sweetie. Where are the kids?" "I am dying to see them. They are watching television." "Hey, Mom, it is a good thing you arrived early. Tomorrow Julian and I are going on a trip, so you will stay to take care of Leo and Mia. I already left a list of everything they need. Meal schedules, homework, classes. Oh, and please do not make a mess in the kitchen, okay? You know how you are." "How am I?" I froze with my suitcase in my hand. "Wait, a trip? But you said you wanted us to spend the holidays together." Chloe sighed, as if I were asking her for something ridiculous. "Oh, Mom, do not be dramatic. We are only going to be gone for 2 weeks. The kids are going to love having you here. Besides, you do not have anything else to do, right?" Before I could answer, Julian appeared. Tall, arrogant, with that smile that had always made me feel small. "Mary, what a miracle. I thought you did not like airplanes anymore." He laughed at his own joke. Then he shouted toward the living room, "Kids, Grandma is here." "But, hey, do not wipe your noses on her." I heard Leo and Mia giggle. Innocent laughs, but in that moment, they hurt like knives. Chloe did not even reprimand him. She just laughed too, as if it were the funniest thing in the world. And right there, standing in the entryway of that house that smelled of expensive candles and disdain, something inside me broke. But not like the other times. I did not crumble. I did not cry. I looked up. I looked at both of them, and with the calmest voice I have ever used in my life, I said, "Perfect. Tomorrow I am going back to my house. Have a good trip." The silence was absolute. Chloe blinked, confused. Julian stopped smiling. And in that moment, I knew that something had just changed forever. But what none of them knew was what I would discover in the following days, and how that calm response would only be the beginning of the storm that was about to break. Chloe's face changed in seconds, that arrogant confidence turning into panic. "Mom, wait. No, the kids miss you so much. If they missed me, they would have greeted me when I arrived." My voice remained calm, terrifyingly calm. Julian tried to laugh, but it sounded forced. "Mary, do not be proud. You are tired from the trip. We get it. I am not tired. I am sane." I left my suitcase where it was. "You made me fly 10 hours to be your unpaid maid. But I no longer accept crumbs disguised as love." Chloe grabbed my arm. Her eyes filled with fake tears, the ones she had perfected since she was a teenager. "Mom, please, just stay tonight. We will talk calmly tomorrow." And there I made my mistake. Those tears, even though fake, could still break me. Because I remembered other tears, real ones, those of an 8-year-old girl crying next to her father's casket. I stayed. 12 years ago, John died of a massive heart attack while repairing the roof of our house. He fell from 12 feet up. There was no time to say goodbye. Just the horrible sound of his body hitting the driveway, and then silence. Chloe was 15. I was 53, and overnight, I became a father and a mother, the sole breadwinner, the only one who could keep that sinking ship afloat. John had been a mechanic, a good man, but we never saved much. When he died, I discovered we were in debt. The house had a second mortgage. The auto shop where he worked closed 3 months later. I knew how to sew. My mother had taught me when I was young, so I turned the living room of our house into an alterations shop. I bought cheap fabric downtown, altered prom dresses, hemmed pants, and embroidered napkins for weddings. I worked from 5 in the morning until past midnight. My fingers bled from sewing so much. The hum of the sewing machine became the soundtrack of our lives. But every dollar I earned was for Chloe, so she could have new clothes, so she lacked nothing at her high school, so she would never feel that she had lost her future along with her father. When Chloe said she wanted to study business at a private university, I sold the big house where we had lived as a family. That house full of memories of John, of the tire swing he hung in the backyard, of the garden where he grew tomatoes. I sold it for $250,000. I paid off the debts. I bought a smaller but decent apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The rest I invested in Chloe's college tuition. I moved into a tiny one-bedroom with a microscopic kitchen. But on the walls, I hung photos of Chloe graduating, smiling, achieving everything I never could. And I felt proud. Chloe met Julian in college, sophomore year. He came from old money. His father owned several car dealerships. His mother organized charity galas where the cheapest plate cost what I earned in a month. The first time Julian came to dinner at my apartment, he looked at my sewing machine with thinly veiled disdain. "How quaint," he said, as if my work were a curious hobby and not the reason his girlfriend had been able to meet him at that expensive university. But Chloe was in love, and I, as a mother, wanted to see her happy. So I swallowed my pride every time Julian made comments about how tiny but cozy my place was, or when his mother asked me with fake sweetness if I also did alterations on fine garments. When they got engaged, Julian's family organized a dinner to get to know each other better. It was at a restaurant where the menu had no prices. Julian's mother, Victoria, asked me what I did for a living. When I said I was a seamstress, she smiled with pity. What a noble trade, so necessary. Noble, necessary, words that meant poor. The wedding was planned for the following year. Julian's family would pay for the country club, the catering, the flowers, everything ostentatious, everything expensive. But Chloe came to me crying one afternoon. "Mom, Julian's parents want me to pay for my dress and the bridesmaids' dresses. They say it is tradition for the bride's family to cover that. But it is so expensive. It is $15,000 in total. $15,000. 3 years of intense savings. 3 years of sleepless nights, bleeding fingers, and an aching back. "Do not worry, sweetie," I told her. "I will take care of it." I pulled out my savings. Everything I had put away, dreaming of taking a road trip across the country one day, or remodeling the apartment, or simply resting. I handed it over without a second thought. Because that is what mothers do, right? We sacrifice. On the day of her wedding, Chloe looked beautiful. The dress was French lace, with imported beadwork. She sparkled under the ballroom lights like a princess. And when I saw her walk down the aisle, I told myself it had been worth it. But at the reception, I overheard Victoria talking to other women. Poor Chloe. Her mother is a seamstress. At least Julian got her out of that life. She will never have to worry about money again. As if I had been a burden. As if my sacrifices had been a weight that Chloe needed to be freed from. After the wedding, the visits became sparse. First, it was every Sunday. Then, every 2 weeks. Then, once a month. Then, only on birthdays and Thanksgiving. And finally, not even that. The phone calls turned into text messages. The "I love you" Mom turned into "I will call you later. I am swamped." When Leo and Mia were born, I was there. At the hospital, during the sleepless nights, helping with diapers and bottles. But as the kids grew, my presence became inconvenient. Julian said I spoiled the kids, that I did not know how to raise them using modern parenting methods. And Chloe, my Chloe, the girl I sold my house for, the one I bled for at that sewing machine, started agreeing with him. Now, standing in the house that my sacrifices helped build, I looked at this daughter I no longer recognized. And I wondered, at what point did I lose my little girl? At what point did she become this woman who saw me as an obstacle? I stayed that night because I still had hope. Because mothers are foolish like that. But what I would discover in the following days would teach me that sometimes love has to learn to say no, and that the worst betrayals come wrapped in blood ties. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee. For a second, half asleep, I thought it had all been a misunderstanding. That I would go downstairs and find Chloe making breakfast, apologizing, telling me she had been stressed. But when I went down, I found the kitchen empty. On the granite counter was a yellow sticky note. "Mom, we left early for the airport. We did not want to wake you. The list of instructions is on the fridge. If anything comes up, call me, but only for emergencies. Kisses." They did not even say goodbye. I opened the refrigerator looking for milk for my coffee, and there, held up by an apple-shaped magnet, was a plastic folder. I pulled it out. Inside were 5 printed pages. Instructions for the care of the house and the children. 47 numbered bullet points. I read the first ones with growing disbelief. 1. Leo eats breakfast at exactly 7:30 in the morning. Oatmeal with blueberries, not raisins. If there are no fresh blueberries, use frozen, never canned. 2. Mia only drinks almond milk. It is on the second shelf. Do not give her regular milk by mistake. 3. Living room cleaning. Vacuum daily. The throw pillows must be arranged at a 45-degree angle. 4. Leo's laundry is washed separately from Mia's. Use his hypoallergenic fabric softener, half a capful only. I kept reading. Each instruction was more absurd than the last. How to fold the towels. Which drawer to store each type of silverware in. That I had to water the patio plants every 3rd day at exactly 6 o'clock at night. At the bottom of the last page, handwritten, was a postscript. P.S. Please do not use my expensive pans to fry things. There are some old ones under the sink. And do not open the wine bottles in the upper cabinet. They are collectibles. Thanks. Thanks. As if she were doing me a favor by letting me work for free in her house. I looked for more information. In the home office, on Julian's mahogany desk, I found an open envelope. Inside were the flight confirmations. Chicago to Maui, Hawaii. The Grand Wailea Resort. All-inclusive package. 15 days. 15 days. Not a long weekend. Not a quick week. 15 damn days. I kept looking. The price of the package was right there, printed on the confirmation. $12,000. $12,000 on a vacation, while I had spent almost half my monthly pension just to get here. I sat down on the sofa that, according to the list, I was supposed to vacuum daily. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from pure rage. I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Leo appeared in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. "Grandma, I am hungry." I took a deep breath. I smiled. "Good morning, sweetheart. What do you want for breakfast?" "Oatmeal with blueberries." Mom says I always eat oatmeal with blueberries. Of course you do. Item number 1 on the list. I made breakfast following the instructions to the letter. Not because I wanted to obey them, but because I was not going to take it out on a 7-year-old boy. Leo ate in silence, watching cartoons on an iPad. "Where are your parents?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "They went to Hawaii. They said we would stay with you because you are a grandma and grandmas babysit kids. Is it your job?" "My job." A 7-year-old, repeating what he had heard in his house. "Leo, honey, what do you think Grandma normally does?" He shrugged. "I do not know." "Wait until we need you, I guess." Wait until they needed me. Like an object kept in a closet until it was useful. Mia came down half an hour later. She saw me and smiled. At least she seemed happy to see me. "Grandma, are you going to stay a long time?" 2 weeks, Princess." "That is great. Mom says that when you are here, she gets to rest. She says you never get tired because you are old, and you do not do anything important anyway." The words came out of her mouth with total innocence, but each one stabbed like glass. I made Mia's breakfast. Almond milk. Toast with sugar-free strawberry jelly. Everything according to the list. Later, while the kids played, I grabbed my phone. I called Chloe. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. A text message. "Mom, we are on the plane. Airplane mode. I will text you later." It took her 6 hours to answer my next message. 15 days, Chloe? You told me it was a short trip. Oh, Mom, we needed this vacation. Julian has been working so hard. Besides, you do not have anything to do at your place. Enjoy the quality time with your grandkids. Enjoy. As if being here were a privilege and not a trap. That afternoon, after taking Leo to his swim lesson, item 23 on the list, checking Mia's homework, item 31, and preparing a balanced dinner with no processed carbs, item 18, I sat in the forbidden living room chair. I looked around. Everything in that house screamed money. The Persian rug that cost more than 3 months of my pension, the massive flat-screen television, the abstract art pieces that Julian probably bought just to show off. And in the middle of all that luxury, me, Mary, 67 years old, retired seamstress, widow, mother, unpaid servant. I opened my purse. I pulled out the photo I always carry. John and I on our wedding day, 42 years ago, young, smiling, full of plans. I wondered what he would think if he saw me now. If he would be proud of how I sacrificed everything for Chloe, or if he would tell me that I had lost myself along the way. That night, after putting the kids to bed, item 44, reading them a story, and turning off the light at exactly 8:30 at night, I went down to the kitchen. I was hungry, but the refrigerator was full of food with labels. For Wednesday's dinner, do not touch, imported cheese, Julian only. Organic desserts reserved. Reserved, as if I were going to steal their food. At the very back, almost hidden, I found some stale bread and a bit of leftover meatloaf in an unlabeled plastic container. That was my dinner. And as I ate alone in that massive, cold kitchen, I realized something terrible. I had not felt this lonely in 12 years. Not even when John died. Because back then, at least I had Chloe. I had a purpose. But now, what did I have now? A daughter who used me. A son-in-law who despised me. Grandchildren who repeated that I was here because it was my job. And 15 days of instructions ahead of me. But what I did not know then, what I could not imagine as I quietly washed my plate, was that the next day everything would get even worse. Because sometimes, when you think you have hit rock bottom, life teaches you that there is always a deeper basement. The first 5 days dragged on like years. Waking up at 6 in the morning, preparing specific breakfasts, driving Leo to swimming, Mia to ballet, cleaning, cooking, checking homework, doing laundry separated by colors, temperatures, and delicacy levels, according to that damn list. Every night I collapsed into the bed in the guest room, because they did not even give me the primary guest suite. That one was reserved for when Julian's parents visited. I went to bed with a ruined back and swollen feet. But the worst part was not the physical exhaustion. It was the other stuff, the small cruelties that piled up like drops of poison. On the third day, Mia was drawing at the dining room table. I walked over to see her picture. A house, a sun, 2 big stick figures, and 2 small ones. "Who are they?" I asked, pointing to the figures. "Mom, Dad, Leo, and me." "And Grandma?" Mia looked at me with those huge hazel eyes. "Dad says grandmas do not count in family drawings because you have already lived your life. He says you already had your turn, already had our turn." As if at 67 I were a piece of old furniture waiting to be taken to the dump. "Ah," was all I could manage to say. Leo was worse. Not out of malice, but because he repeated exactly what he heard in that house. On the 4th day, while I was making lunch, he asked me, "Grandma, is it true that you are broke?" I froze with the knife in my hand. "Who told you that?" "Dad. He told Mom that is why you came. Because at your house you do not have anything better to do, and here at least you get to eat good food." The knife almost slipped from my grip. "Leo, sweetie, I came because I love you. But, are you broke? Dad says you do not have anything, and that is why Mom always has to worry about you. He says you are a burden, a burden." "Your dad does not understand some things," I managed to say. "Like what?" "Like money is not the only thing that makes a person valuable." Leo shrugged and went back to playing his video game. To him, it was just another conversation. To me, it was a dagger straight to the chest. That afternoon, after dropping the kids off at their activities, I returned to the empty house. I opened the refrigerator looking for something for my lunch. Everything, absolutely everything, had labels. Julian's smoothies, special formula, do not touch. Salmon for Friday's dinner, thaw according to instructions. Imported Greek yogurt, adults only. Adults, as if I did not qualify. Way in the back, almost hidden, I found half a package of cheap deli ham and some cheese that smelled funny. That is what I ate. A sad sandwich made from what they considered scraps. I tried calling Chloe, again, for the 15th time in 5 days. Voicemail. I sent her a text. "Honey, I need to talk to you. It is important." 3 hours later, "Mom, we are at the spa. I will call you later." She never called. The next day, a text arrived. "By the way, could you water the plants on the patio? I forgot to put it on the list. Thanks." Not a, "How are you?" Not an, "Are the kids behaving?" Just more instructions. On the 5th day, as I was sweeping the front porch, the next-door neighbor appeared. Ruth, a woman in her 70s with snow-white hair and those eyes that catch everything. "Mary, right? I saw you arrive a few days ago." "Yes, ma'am, nice to meet you." She looked me up and down. Not with malice, with pity. "You came to watch the kids while they are on vacation." It was not a question, it was a statement. "That is right." Ruth sighed. "Oh, honey, again? Again?" "The last time they brought Julian's mom over. They kept her here for 3 weeks." The poor woman left in tears. I never knew exactly what happened, but I heard shouting, Julian yelling at his own mother that she did not know how to raise modern kids. I felt my stomach turn. Really? I am telling you. And before that, they hired a nanny to watch the kids. She lasted 2 days. She said Julian spoke to her like she was his slave. Ruth stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Be careful, Mary. That family is not good people. And your daughter, forgive me for saying this, learned very well from her husband." I said goodbye to her with a lump in my throat. I went inside the house. I sat on the stairs, right where no one could see me. And that was when I saw it. On the console table in the foyer. An open envelope, bank mail. I should not have opened it. I know. But something pushed me to do it. It was a bank statement. From Chloe's account. I checked the transactions for the last month. Fancy restaurants, $1,500. Spa, $1,000. Department store, $3,000. And right there, highlighted with a yellow marker, transfer blocked. Mary Evans. Beneficiary removed from system. I froze. I looked for more documents. I found a printed email. From Julian to Chloe. I already blocked the transfers to your mom like we agreed. It is for her own good. If you keep giving her money, she will get too comfortable. Let her learn to live on her pension. It is not our problem that she made bad decisions in her life. Bad decisions. Like selling my house to pay for my daughter's college. Like working until I bled so she would never lack anything. Those were my bad decisions. My hands were shaking holding that paper. Chloe had agreed to this. She had let Julian block any financial support to me. And she never said a word. When did this happen? How long ago had my own daughter decided that I did not even deserve her occasional support? The phone rang. It was Chloe. I answered with the most neutral voice I could muster. Hello, Mom? Is everything okay? Are the kids behaving? Yes, that is great. Hey, could you wash the sheets on our bed? We come back in a week, and I would love to come home to everything feeling fresh. Wash their sheets, while they were lounging on a beach. Chloe, I need to ask you something. Make it quick. We are about to go into a yoga class. Why did you block the bank transfers to me? Silence. Long. Uncomfortable. Mom, it was Julian's decision. And he is right. We cannot be supporting you your whole life. You have your pension. I never asked you to support me. I am just asking why you made that decision without telling me. Because we knew you were going to be dramatic about it. Look, I have to go. I stood there, phone in hand, in that house that smelled of expensive detergent and betrayal. And for the first time in 5 days, I did not cry. Because there was something growing inside me that was stronger than tears. It was fury, but I still did not know how deep the betrayal went. Because the worst, the absolute worst, was yet to come. Day 8 dawned differently. Leo did not come down for breakfast. I went up to his room and found him curled up under the blankets, shivering. His forehead was burning. I touched his face. He was boiling. My head hurts, Grandma, he mumbled. And my throat. I looked for the thermometer in the bathroom. 102 degrees. Almost 103. I called Chloe, straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. I sent a text. Leo has a very high fever. I need to talk to you right now. Nothing. I waited 10 minutes. Nothing. Leo started whimpering louder. Mia was crying, scared to see her brother like that. And I was there, alone, in a house that was not mine, with a sick child and no medical authorization. I made a decision. I dressed him as best as I could, put a heavy jacket on him, scooped up Mia, and called an Uber to the nearest urgent care clinic. The driver looked at me through the rearview mirror. Is the boy okay? He has a very high fever. Please, hurry. At the urgent care clinic, a young nurse received me. Are you his grandmother? Yes. Where are the parents? I swallowed hard. Out of town. She looked at me with something that was not exactly disapproval, but close. We need health insurance information and authorization from the parents for any procedures. He is very sick, please. I understand, ma'am, but it is protocol. While I filled out paperwork with trembling hands, I tried to call Chloe another 6 times. Nothing. I called Julian. Phone off. I texted them both. I am at urgent care with Leo. Answer the phone. The doctor examined Leo. Severe strep throat. He needed antibiotics, blood work, and observation. How much does it all cost? I asked. The nurse handed me a paper. $800. $800 out of my pension. My pension that barely covered my utilities, my groceries, my own medication. But he was my grandson, so I pulled out my debit card and paid. 2 hours later, with Leo already medicated and Mia asleep in my arms from pure exhaustion, my phone rang. Julian. What happened? I saw like 1,000 missed calls. Leo is sick. I am at the clinic. I called you for hours. And what do you think we left you in charge for, Mary? Exactly so you could handle these things without bothering us. We are on vacation. I was speechless, literally without words. Mary, are you still there? Julian, your son had a fever of 102. I had to bring him to urgent care. I spent over $800 of my own money because you two would not pick up. Oh, Mary, do not exaggerate. Kids get sick. It is normal. Do you expect us to come running back every time the boy gets the sniffles? That is what you are there for. But, look, we will reimburse you whatever you spent later. Do not make a scene. I will pass you to Chloe now. I heard voices in the background. Laughter. Music. Chloe took the phone. Mom? Is Leo feeling better? Is he better? He has a severe infection, Chloe. I was calling you for hours. Oh, Mom, we left our phones by the pool. Stop being so dramatic. Kids get sick. It is part of growing up. That is why we needed you there. Part of growing up, as if I were dramatic for being worried. Chloe, I do not have medical authorization. I cannot make decisions here. Mom, you already figured it out, right? Then there is no problem. Look, I will Venmo you what you spent and case closed. I really have to go now. We are having lobster for dinner. I will send you pictures. She hung up. I sat there in the waiting room, watching Leo sleeping with his IV drip connected. And something inside me broke in a completely different way. It was not sadness, it was clarity, cold and painful clarity. We got back to the house around 9 o'clock at night. I put Leo to bed, gave him his medicine, made sure Mia ate something for dinner. Then, when they were both asleep, I went downstairs. The house was dead quiet. A heavy, almost accusing silence. I needed something. A glass of water. Something sweet. Anything to wash the bitter taste out of my mouth. I went into the master bedroom, looking for an antacid that I knew Julian kept. I opened the drawer of his nightstand, and there it was. A thick manila envelope. I do not know why I opened it. Maybe because I no longer trusted anything. Maybe because some instinct was screaming at me to look. Inside were documents. A lot of documents. The first one was a property deed. For my condo, with a pending sale stamp on it. My hands started to shake. I kept looking. A power of attorney, supposedly signed by me, authorizing Chloe to sell my property. The date, 6 months ago. When I went to visit them for Mia's birthday, I remembered that day. Chloe had asked me to sign some bank papers. She told me it was to update the emergency beneficiary information. I signed without looking, because I trusted my daughter. But this was not a beneficiary update. This was an authorization to sell my only piece of property. I kept reading, my heart pounding in my ears. A business plan. Arrivi Real Estate Investments. Julian and Chloe. They planned to sell my apartment for $300,000. Use that money to invest in a commercial property to generate passive income. Passive income. There were margin notes. In Chloe's handwriting, talk to Mom after the sale. Tell her it is better for her to live in an assisted living facility, much safer at her age. An assisted living facility. My vision blurred. I had to sit down on their bed because my legs would not hold me. But there was more. Of course there was more. An iPad on the nightstand. I picked it up. It was unlocked. Open to iMessage. The conversation between Julian and Chloe. Dated 2 weeks ago. Right before they invited me to spend the holidays with them. Julian. I already talked to the notary public. He says that with the power of attorney we can sell without your mom having to be present. Chloe. What if she gets mad? Julian. And what is she going to do about it? She is old. She has no one else. Besides, we will tell her it is for her own good. That with that money we will invest and give her a monthly allowance. Chloe. I do not know. I feel bad. Julian. Chloe, in 2 years we can buy that beach house we want. Your mom will live better in a place where professionals take care of her. It is a win-win. Chloe. Yeah, you are right. Whatever. What is she gonna do? She is my mom. She has to understand. I kept scrolling down. More messages. Chloe. I already invited her for December. I told her the kids miss her. Julian. Perfect. That way we get her off our backs for 2 weeks, and we can take that trip to Maui. Kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Chloe. Ha ha ha. Poor thing. But yeah, we need the break. She is old. I do not think she will get too tired. Julian. She is a grandma. That is what grandmas are for. The iPad slipped from my hands. I sat there, on the bed where my betrayers slept, surrounded by their expensive pillows and Egyptian cotton sheets, bought with who knows how many more lies. And something inside me died. But at the same time, something else was born. Because when you hit rock bottom, when there is nothing left to lose, that is when you finally give yourself permission to be ruthless. I picked up the iPad. I took pictures of every single message with my phone. I took pictures of the documents. Everything. And then, at 11 o'clock at night, with my grandchildren asleep upstairs and my heart turned to stone, I made a phone call. Patricia, it is Mary. I need your help, and I need it tonight. Because the time had come for this old grandma to teach them something they had forgotten, that women who survive widowhood, poverty, and betrayal are anything but weak. Patricia arrived at midnight, my lifelong best friend. I met her when our kids went to elementary school together. She was a lawyer, now retired, but with more legal knowledge in her pinky finger than most practicing attorneys. I opened the door and did not have to say a word. My face said it all. What did they do? She asked directly. I showed her everything. The documents, the power of attorney, the text messages, the business plan to sell my condo and stick me in a nursing home. Patricia read in silence. With every page, she turned, her jaw clenched tighter. When she finished, she set the papers down on the table with deliberate care. The kind of care people use when they are holding back an explosion. Mary, this is attempted fraud. You could send your daughter to prison. I do not want to send her to prison. I just want. What do you want? I stayed quiet. What did I want? Revenge. Justice. For my daughter to turn back into the little girl who cried in my arms when her dad died? I want them to understand that I am not a disposable burden. Patricia nodded. Then we are going to teach them a lesson. But I need you to let me work. Do you trust me? With my life. Patricia pulled her laptop out of her tote bag. First things first, this power of attorney is completely illegal. How? Look at the date. According to this, you signed it 6 months ago. But a power of attorney for a real estate sale requires 2 certified witnesses and must be notarized with valid identification present. Did you sign this in front of a notary? I shook my head. I signed it in this house. Chloe told me it was simple bank paperwork. Exactly. This holds no legal weight. It is completely void. Patricia kept looking. Furthermore, I see that the notary who supposedly validated the document is Richard Vance. I know him. He is a corrupt notary who sells stamps for cash. But he made a mistake. He used a notary stamp that was revoked 3 months ago for irregularities. I felt like I could breathe for the first time in hours. So, they cannot sell my apartment? No, they just cannot. If they try to proceed with this fraudulent power of attorney, they are facing felony criminal charges. Patricia looked at me dead serious. But Mary, we need to move fast and quietly, because even though this is illegal, they can cause a lot of damage in the meantime. When do they come back? In 7 days. Perfect, we have time. She started typing on her laptop. I am going to contact Notary Vance first thing tomorrow morning. I am going to press him to sign an affidavit admitting that Julian bribed him. If he refuses, I have proof of his other fraudulent acts that I can hand straight over to the state board. He will cooperate, and then we block any attempt to transact on your condo. I will speak with your original title company, with the county recorder of deeds. No one will be able to touch your house without your physical presence and explicit authorization. Patricia, I do not have the money to pay you for this. She cut me off with a wave of her hand. Mary, when my son got sick with leukemia 20 years ago, you were the only one who did not disappear. You stayed with me at the hospital. You brought me food you cooked even when you barely had enough for yourself. You held me up when I could not go on. You cannot put a price on that. And besides, her voice hardened, I despise abusers. And your daughter turned into an abuser. We worked until 3 in the morning. Patricia photographed everything. She made certified copies on a secure app. She drafted documents. Tomorrow morning I am going straight to the bank where you have your account, she said. We are going to freeze any access Chloe has. You said you gave her access years ago for emergencies, right? Yes, it is over. Tomorrow that authorization vanishes. Your money, your apartment, your life, everything gets bulletproofed. Patricia closed her laptop. Do you have someone you trust back at your building? Frank, the building superintendent, has known me for 15 years. Call him tomorrow. Tell him to change the locks. Tell him not to let anyone in without your direct written authorization. Not your daughter, not anyone. I hugged her. Hard. Harder than I had hugged anyone in months. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. This is just getting started. She pulled back and looked me straight in the eyes. Mary, what comes next is not going to be easy. Because when they get back and find out they cannot do anything, they are going to attack you. They are going to gaslight you. Chloe is going to cry. She will say you misunderstood everything. That they only wanted to help you. I know. Are you ready to stand your ground? Are you ready for your daughter to hate you? That question hurt. But I thought about the text messages. Whatever. What is she gonna do? She is my mom. She has to understand. She already hates me, I said with a calm voice. I just had not accepted it until now. Patricia left around 4 o'clock. I went upstairs to check on the kids. Leo was fast asleep. The fever had broken. Mia was hugging her favorite stuffed animal. I looked at them and felt an overwhelming sadness. It was not their fault. But they were being raised by people who taught them that grandmothers were disposable, that money was more important than dignity, that using people was fine as long as they were family. I went downstairs and kept looking through the iPad. Chloe had left connected to the house's Wi-Fi. There were more conversations. A lot more. A group chat, VIP girls, Chloe and 4 other women. A message from Chloe from 3 weeks ago. Girls, help. My mom wants to come for Christmas and I do not know how to tell her no. Julian says we should just use her as a babysitter so we can go to Maui, but I feel bad. A response from someone named Harper. Ha ha ha, girl. I do that with my mother-in-law all the time. Honestly, what else are the old ladies good for if not to help out? Another response. Just say the kids miss her. It always works on grandmas. They melt. Chloe. You guys are right. Plus, I already talked to Julian, and if we sell her condo, we can buy the beach house. Win-win, win-win. Stealing my house was a win-win. I kept scrolling. A message from Chloe to Julian from 4 months ago. Sometimes I feel bad about my mom. She sacrificed a lot for me. Julian. Chloe, we already talked about this. You did not ask her to sell her house. Those were her choices. You do not owe her anything. She chose to have a kid. You did not choose to have a poor mother. Chloe, you are right. Sometimes I just get sentimental. Julian, that is why I handle the finances, babe. You are too soft. In 2 years, we will be in that beach house, and your mom will be in a place where professionals take care of her. Everyone is happy. I closed the iPad. I poured myself a glass of water. I drank it slowly, standing in the dark kitchen. And right there, in that silence, I made my final decision. I was not going to cry anymore. I was not going to beg for love. I was not going to settle for crumbs. I was going to show them that the woman who sold her house to give her daughter an education was the very same woman who had the courage to defend herself. The next 6 days passed on autopilot, taking care of the kids, following that ridiculous list, cleaning the house, but on the inside, I was building something. Patricia was working from the shadows. The corrupt notary signed his affidavit confessing to the bribe. The bank froze Chloe's access. Frank changed the locks on my condo. Everything was locked down, protected, bulletproofed, and I saved every piece of evidence, every text, every document, every proof of what they had planned to do to me. Chloe sent occasional text messages. Everything good, Mom? Pictures of beaches, of cocktails, of sunsets. I would reply, everything is perfect, sweetie. Enjoy. And I smiled, because she did not know that with every passing day, I was getting stronger. On day 15, I got a text. Mom, we land tomorrow at 6 o'clock at night. Could you make dinner? We are craving a home-cooked meal. I replied, of course, sweetie. See you then. That night, Patricia came over one last time. Ready? She asked. Ready? She handed me an envelope. Here is everything. The notary's sworn statement, the legal freezes, the certified copies, and a letter from my law firm warning that we will press criminal charges if they do not sign a full waiver of all rights regarding your property. And if they refuse, then this goes to court, and I promise you they will lose. But I do not think they will refuse. Julian is abusive, not stupid. He knows real estate fraud means prison time. I hugged Patricia one more time. Whatever happens tomorrow, thank you. Teach them a lesson they will never forget, she said before leaving. The next day, I prepared the dinner they asked for. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Chloe's favorite since childhood. I set the table, arranged the plates, and right in the center, I placed the manila envelope. At exactly 6 o'clock, I heard the car pull into the garage. I took a deep breath. The door opened, and the finale began. They walked in like conquerors returning from war, tanned, relaxed, carrying bags of souvenirs, with that attitude of someone who just dropped $12,000 without an ounce of regret. Chloe did not even look at me when she walked past. "Hi, Mom. Smells delicious." She headed straight for the sofa and dropped down dramatically. "I am exhausted. Traveling is so tiring." Julian dropped the suitcases in the middle of the living room, as if I were the maid who would carry them upstairs later. "Mary, you look tired. Guess you are ready to head back to your place? Huh?" Leo and Mia ran to hug their parents. They did not even look back to say goodbye to me, as if the last 15 days had been a meaningless parenthesis. "Yes," I said calmly. "I am ready. But first, we need to talk about something important." Chloe sighed without opening her eyes. "Mom, we just got here. Can it wait?" "No, it cannot wait." Julian looked at me with that condescending smirk I hated so much. "About what, mother-in-law? Do you want us to pay for your Uber home?" They both laughed. I walked over to the dining room table. I picked up the manila envelope. I turned to look at them. "I want to talk about this forged power of attorney and how you were planning to sell my condo to buy your beach house." The silence was so abrupt you could cut it with a knife. Chloe's eyes snapped open. All the color drained from her face. "Mom, I can explain." "Explain what?" "How your husband bribed a notary. How you planned to dump me in a nursing home. Or how you used me for free childcare while you spent $12,000 in Hawaii." Julian stood up. His face went from shock to anger in seconds. "How dare you snoop through our things? How dare you plan to rob me? It is not robbery. She is your daughter. She has a right to it." I cut him off. First time in years I ever interrupted Julian. And the feeling was intoxicating. She has absolutely no right. And you have even less. I pulled the documents out of the envelope. I placed them on the table, one by one, deliberately slow. "This," I pointed at the first page, "is the sworn affidavit from Notary Public Richard Vance, confessing that you bribed him with $5,000 to validate a fraudulent power of attorney." Julian went pale. "This," I pulled out another page, "is the confirmation from the county recorder's office blocking any transaction on my condo without my physical presence and notarized authorization in front of witnesses. This," another page, "are certified screenshots of your text messages, where you call me a burden and plot my life without consulting me. And this," I pulled out the last document, "is a letter from my attorney warning you that if you do not sign a total waiver of all rights to my property, we will press criminal charges. Real estate wire fraud carries up to 12 years in federal prison." Chloe had stood up. Tears were starting to stream down her cheeks. "Mom, I am sorry. I am so sorry. It was Julian's idea. I just—" "Shut up, Chloe." My voice sounded so cold even I surprised myself. "You are a 33-year-old adult woman. Stop blaming others for your greed. It is not greed. We were going to give you a monthly allowance. You would have been better off." "Better off? Better off where? In the nursing home you had picked out?" The silence confirmed everything. Julian tried to regain control. He took a step toward me, trying to intimidate me with his height. "Look, Mary, you are taking this entirely out of context. We can solve this as a family." I pulled out my phone. "Do I dial 911 right now, or do you sign?" His demeanor changed instantly. The arrogant bully turned into a terrified little boy. "No, there is no need to call anyone. We can talk about this. I am done talking. I talked to myself for 15 days. While you drank piña coladas, I pushed the waiver document in front of them. And a pen. Sign it, both of you, right now. Chloe was sobbing openly. Mom, please, forgive me. I love you. I have always loved you. And that was when something inside me exploded, not with shouting, with the truth. If this is love, Chloe, I prefer hate, because hate is at least honest. I stepped closer to her. I looked her in the eyes, those hazel eyes she got from her father. I gave you everything, my youth, my money, my house, my dreams. I sold your father's memories so you could go to an expensive college. I sewed until my fingers bled so you would never lack for anything. I moved into a tiny apartment so you could have a future. Mom. And you know what I got in return? Disdain, lies, a plot to leave me homeless. And worse than all that, the confirmation that to you, I am just a burden. Chloe's tears looked genuine, but they could not touch me anymore. Sign it, I repeated, or this ends up in court. And believe me, Julian, when real estate fraud goes to trial, things get very ugly, especially for a sales director whose career relies on his reputation. Julian took the pen. He signed. His hands were shaking. Chloe was sobbing. Mom, please, give me another chance. Chloe, my voice softened just a fraction. I am giving you the chance not to go to prison. That is far more generous than you deserve. She signed, too. Through tears. Through sobs that broke my heart even if I did not show it. I took the signed document. I put it in my purse. Is there anything else you need to know? I said. I will not press criminal charges, but you will not see me again until you meet 3 conditions. What conditions? Julian asked in a hollow voice. First, family therapy, fully paid for by you, with a real licensed professional for at least 6 months. Second, Chloe is going to get a job. A real job, and she is going to pay me back the $15,000 I spent on her wedding in monthly installments. Not because I need it, but because she needs to learn the value of money that is not hers. Third, you will explain to Leo and Mia that grandmothers are not maids, that I deserve respect, and that what you did was wrong. Chloe opened her mouth to protest. It is non-negotiable, I cut in. Either you accept it, or you never see me again. Ever. At that moment, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Leo and Mia were sitting on the steps. They had heard everything. Leo had tears in his eyes. Were you really going to sell Grandma's house? Chloe did not know what to say. I walked over to my grandchildren. I kneeled in front of them, even though my knees protested. I love you, I told them, more than you can ever imagine. But Grandma needs to be respected. Do you understand? Mia hugged me tight. I am sorry, Grandma. I did not want you to leave. Leo hugged me too. Dad is the bad guy, right? I did not answer. I just held them both. Then I stood up. I grabbed my suitcase that I had left packed by the door. My lawyer will contact you to follow up on the conditions. You have my number if you agree to the terms. I walked toward the door. Mom, wait. Chloe's voice sounded shattered. I stopped without turning around. I hope, I said, that someday you realize that loving you does not mean destroying myself. And that teaching you that has been the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. I walked out. The door closed behind me. And for the first time in 15 days, I breathed air that did not smell like betrayal. The Uber I had called was already waiting. To the airport? The driver asked. No, I answered. Home. To my home. As the car pulled away, I did not look back, because I had finally learned that sometimes the greatest act of love you can give is teaching someone they cannot walk all over you, even if that someone is your own daughter. The apartment smelled stale, dusty, like 2 weeks of loneliness, but it was mine. I left the suitcase by the door. I walked through every room, trailing my fingers over the furniture. The tiny kitchen where I made my chamomile tea, the living room with the worn but comfortable armchair where I read in the afternoons, my bedroom with the knitted quilt I had made years ago. It was not fancy. It did not have hardwood floors or imported appliances. But it was mine. Nobody could take it from me. Not anymore. I sat in my armchair and cried. I cried out everything I had held in for 15 days, everything I had held back during the confrontation, all the pain of a mother who just had to set boundaries with her own daughter. The phone rang 20 minutes later. Chloe. I did not answer. It rang again, and again, and again. 27 missed calls that night. The next morning there were 53 text messages. The first ones were angry. I cannot believe you did this to us. You humiliated us in front of the kids. Julian says you blew everything out of proportion. Then came the manipulation. Mom, please, let us talk. The kids miss you. We can fix this as a family. And finally, playing the victim. I feel awful. I cannot sleep thinking about how I made you feel. Just give me a chance to explain. I did not reply to any of them. Patricia came by on the third day. She brought pastries and coffee. How are you holding up? She asked bluntly. Destroyed, but alive. That is a start. She sat across from me. They have been calling the firm. Julian wants to negotiate more reasonable terms. There is no negotiation. That is what I told them. Chloe called too, crying. She says she accepts the conditions, but she wants to see you. I felt my chest tighten. Does she actually accept them, or is she just trying to manipulate me? Hard to tell. But Mary, Patricia grabbed my hand. You have to be prepared for the possibility that they might not change, that this might be the permanent end of your relationship with them. I know. And are you at peace with that? I stayed quiet for a long time. No, I will never be at peace with losing my daughter, but I am at peace with not losing myself in the process. The following weeks were strange. Ruth, the neighbor who had warned me, knocked on my door with a casserole. I heard you got back and that things went south. How did you find out? Oh, honey, in this building everyone knows everything. She smiled warmly. You did the right thing. No matter who it is, nobody has the right to treat you like garbage. That night I ate dinner with company for the first time in weeks. Ruth told me about her own daughter, who lived on the West Coast and barely called her. You raise them the best you can, she said without bitterness. But that does not mean you have to let them walk all over you. A month later, I received an email from the family therapist, Dr. Evans. Dear Mary, Chloe and Julian started therapy as agreed upon. They have attended 4 sessions. Chloe requested that I inform you of her progress. She also asked if you would be open to attending a joint session whenever you feel ready. Was I ready? I did not know. 2 months after the incident, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered out of habit. Grandma? It was Leo. Sweetheart, how did you get this number? I asked Mom for it. She told me I could call you if I promised not to pressure her into calling you. He paused. I miss you. The tears started falling before I could stop them. I miss you too, Leo. Mom is acting weird. She cries a lot. Dad too. They are going to talk to a doctor. I know, sweetheart. Is it because of what happened? Because of your house? Yes. Did they do something really bad? I took a deep breath. Yes, but they are trying to be better, and that is what matters. When are you coming over? I do not know yet, but are you going to come? Someday? And there was the question I had been asking myself for 2 months. Yes, I finally said. Someday, when things are better. Do you promise? I promise. After hanging up, I stared at the phone, thinking, feeling, because being a mother never truly ends, not even when your kids betray you, not even when you have to walk away to survive. 3.5 months later, Chloe showed up at my door. She did not call first. She did not give a heads up. She just rang the doorbell at 10 in the morning on a Saturday. When I opened the door, I almost did not recognize her. She had lost weight. She had dark circles under her eyes. The flawless makeup was gone. Hi, Mom. We stood there in the doorway looking at each other. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She sat in my armchair, the exact same one where I had cried the night I returned. She looked around as if seeing the apartment for the first time. I forgot how tiny this place is, she said softly. But I also forgot how warm it feels. I said nothing. I have been in therapy for 3 months, twice a week. She fiddled with her hands. The doctor says I have codependency patterns with authority figures and trouble establishing my own identity separate from my husband. And what do you say? She looked up. Her eyes were red. I say I have a mother whom I betrayed in the worst possible way, and I do not know if I will ever be able to forgive myself. Did you come looking for my forgiveness? No. I came to tell you I am sorry, truly, not because I want something from you, but because you deserve to hear it. She wiped away her tears. I let Julian convince me that you were a burden. I let him make me forget everything you sacrificed. I turned into someone I do not even recognize. And Julian? He is in therapy too, separately from me. He says he comes from a family where money equaled love, and he does not know how to show affection any other way. She paused. It is not an excuse, but it is a start. I poured myself some tea. I did not offer her any. Not yet. Did you find a job? Yes, at a retail boutique. I sell clothes. I make $3,000 a month. I already transferred the first payment of what I owe you. I checked my phone. There it was, $500. There are 30 payments in total, she said. 2.5 years. I am going to pay you back every single cent. I do not need the money, but I need to give it back to you. We sat in silence. The wall clock ticked the seconds away. Mom, her voice cracked. I do not expect you to forgive me tomorrow, or next month, or maybe ever. I just want you to know that every single day I wake up ashamed of what I did. And every day I try to be a little bit better than the person who was capable of planning that against you. I stood up. I walked over to the window. Chloe, I love you. I will always love you. You are my daughter. But love does not mean forgetting. It does not mean going back to exactly how things were before. Because that Mary, the Mary who let herself be used, she does not exist anymore. I know. If we are going to rebuild anything, it has to be built on the truth. No manipulation, no fake tears, no empty promises. Can we try to do that? I looked at her. I saw the little girl crying for her father, but I also saw the woman who plotted to steal my home. We can try, I finally said, but it is going to take time. A lot of time. She stood up. She did not try to hug me. She just nodded. I have all the time in the world. When she left, I made myself another cup of tea. I sat back in my armchair, and for the first time in months, I felt something resembling hope. It was not forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a start. 6 months had passed since that confrontation. 6 months of tiny baby steps. Chloe made her payments religiously. She went to therapy. She called once a week. Short but honest conversations. Julian, however, was a different story. That Tuesday, Patricia called me sounding urgent. Mary, you need to come down to my office. Right now. I got there in under an hour. Her face told me everything. Julian filed a lawsuit. I felt the floor shift beneath me. A lawsuit? For what? He claims you defamed his character, that the notary's affidavit was obtained under duress, that you pressured Chloe into signing documents under threat. Patricia put the legal papers in front of me. Basically, he is trying to reverse everything we accomplished. Can he do that? He can try. Will he win? No. We have all the evidence. But, she paused, it is going to be a long, expensive, exhausting process, which is exactly what he wants. To wear you down, to make you give up. Does Chloe know about this? According to these documents, she is not listed as a plaintiff. Just him. That night, Chloe showed up at my apartment crying hysterically, unannounced, just like she did months ago. But this time was different. I had no idea, she sobbed. I found out this afternoon when the legal notice arrived at the house. Julian hired a lawyer without telling me. He used money from our joint checking account. And I told him to stop, to drop the lawsuit, that we had agreed to move forward, not backward. What did he tell you? Her face crumpled. That I was a sentimental idiot, that I should let the men handle serious business, that you brainwashed me in therapy. I sat down. I took a deep breath. And what did you do? I told him to drop the suit or I was leaving the house. Silence filled the apartment. And he told me to leave then, that without him I was a nobody, that he was the one who saved me from a mediocre life with you. The tears flowed freely. So I grabbed the kids and left. We are staying at a hotel. Mom, I am not asking you for money. I am not asking you to rescue me. I just needed you to know that this time, I chose differently. She looked at me with shattered but resolute eyes. This time I chose you. I chose to do the right thing. 3 days later, I got a call from a private number. Mary Evans? Yes. This is Victoria, Julian's mother. The venom in her voice was palpable. We need to talk about this ridiculous situation you provoked. I did not provoke anything. Your son tried to rob me. My son tried to help you, to give you a better life. And you, playing the victim, destroyed a marriage. Your son bribed a notary and forged documents. That is not help. That is a felony. Listen to me carefully, Mary. Her voice turned ice cold. My family has resources, lawyers, connections. We can make your life a living hell. Or you can be reasonable, drop all the accusations, and let things go back to normal. Normal? Letting you rob me with a smile on my face? Chloe is a gullible fool. She always was. But Julian is brilliant. He has a future, and I am not going to let some bitter seamstress ruin my son. Something ignited inside me. Not anger, absolute clarity. Victoria, your son is an abuser who learned from you that money buys everything, even other people's dignity. But here is the difference. I do not have your money. But I have something you people will never understand. I have principles that are not for sale. How quaint. And what good are your principles doing you in that miserable little apartment? They help me sleep soundly at night, which is something I doubt you or your son can do. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but it was from adrenaline, not fear. A week later, Julian's lawyer contacted Patricia with an offer. They would drop everything if Mary signed a non-disclosure agreement and accepted $10,000 as compensation for the misunderstandings. Patricia looked at me. What do you want to do? What happens if I decline? The lawsuit proceeds. It could drag on for years. We will win in the end. I have zero doubt. But it will be exhausting. And if I accept, Julian walks away clean. He gets to say the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. That you are the crazy one. And you are $10,000 richer. So he buys his reputation back. Exactly. I stood up. I walked to the window of Patricia's office, looking out over the sprawling city below, thousands of lives, millions of stories. No, I finally said. Are you sure? Completely. Julian needs to learn that actions have consequences, that you cannot fix everything with cash. And if I have to go to court to teach him that lesson, so be it. Patricia smiled. That is my girl. 2 weeks later, Julian showed up at my building. Frank, the super, called up. Mary, the son-in-law is down here. He says he needs to talk to you. Tell him I am not home. I already did. He says he is not leaving until you come down. I went down. Not for him, but because I was not going to let him cause a scene in my lobby. He was standing there, disheveled, deep circles under his eyes. He was no longer the arrogant hotshot from a few months ago. What do you want? To talk. 5 minutes. You have 3. I am dropping the lawsuit. Everything. Unconditionally. Why? He ran his hands over his face. Because Chloe left me. For real. She took the kids. She filed for divorce. And my boss found out about the legal trouble. They put me on administrative leave. And now that your life is falling apart, you come to negotiate. I am not negotiating. I am apologizing. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I saw a broken man. Julian, for years you treated me like garbage. As if having less money meant I had less value as a human being. I know. You planned to steal my house. You gaslit my daughter. You taught my grandkids that I was disposable. I know. And now? Now what? A quick apology, and we wipe the slate clean? I do not expect a clean slate. I just want to stop this before I lose everything. He looked at me with exhausted eyes. I already lost my family. I do not want to lose my career, too. You should have thought about that earlier. You are right. You are absolutely right. I turned around to leave. Mary, his voice stopped me. You were right about everything. And I was a coward who believed that money was power. But real power is what you have. The power to stand your ground When everything falls apart. I did not answer. I just went back upstairs to my apartment. The next day, Patricia received the official withdrawal of the lawsuit with no conditions and no money exchanged. You did it, Patricia said. What did I do? You made an abuser learn that he cannot get away with it. But I did not feel victorious. I felt exhausted. I felt sadness for Chloe, for the kids, for everything that was broken. You know what I learned, Patricia? What? That standing up for your dignity does not always feel good. But it is necessary, even when it hurts. That night, Chloe called me. Julian told me he talked to you. Yes. Are you okay? And there it was. My daughter asking me if I was okay. After months. After everything. Yes, sweetie. I am okay. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, for teaching me that self-respect is not selfish. We hung up, and I let myself cry. Because sometimes winning feels a lot like losing, but it was necessary. 6 more months went by, and my life found a rhythm I never imagined. Chloe finalized the divorce. She moved into a modest apartment with the kids. She worked full-time and took accounting classes at night. The payments arrived punctually every month. We were on month 9 now. Julian had moved to Denver, transferred by his company after the scandal. According to Chloe, he was still in therapy too. He sent child support, nothing else. And me, I was rebuilding myself. I had taken up sewing again, not out of necessity, but for fun. Ruth recommended me to her friends, and now I had a small clientele asking for alterations and custom embroidery, nothing stressful, just enough to keep me busy. That Saturday, Chloe knocked on my door, but this time, she was not alone. Leo and Mia ran to hug me. Grandma! I held them tight, feeling my heart swell. They had grown. Leo was 8 now. Mia was 5. Can we stay for lunch? Mia asked with those huge eyes. I looked at Chloe. She smiled shyly. If it is not too much trouble, I brought groceries so we can cook together, like before. Like before. But not exactly the same. We cooked. Chloe prepped the chicken. I made the rice. The kids set the table without being asked. During lunch, Leo talked about his soccer team. Mia showed off a drawing she had made at school. A house, a sun, and this time, 5 stick figures. Who are they? I asked. Mom, Leo, me, and you 2. She pointed to the 2 biggest figures. You and Grandma Ruth. Because Grandma Ruth watches us sometimes when Mom has to work. Chloe blushed. Ruth has been incredibly kind. She helps me out with the kids when I have a night class. You help each other out, I corrected. That is how it is supposed to work. Without exploiting anyone. Without taking anyone for granted. After lunch, while the kids watched a movie, Chloe and I washed the dishes. How are things going? I asked. Hard. Exhausting. Sometimes I have no idea how I am going to pay all the bills. She rinsed a plate. But also liberating. For the first time in years, I am making my own choices, making my own mistakes. And when I achieve something, it is truly mine. I am proud of you. Her eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? She dried a glass in silence. Mom, I know I will never be able to make up for what I did to you, but I want you to know that every single day I push myself to be the woman you deserve as a daughter. Chloe, it is not about deserving anymore. It is about building something new. From an honest place. Do you think that someday we can truly be a family again? I looked at her. I saw the little girl crying for her father. I saw the woman who betrayed me. But I also saw the hard-working single mother who was learning. The student pulling all-nighters to get ahead. The daughter who was genuinely trying to change. We are already a family, Chloe, but a different kind of family. One where we respect each other, where there are boundaries, where love does not mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. That night, after they left, I sat in my armchair. The same one where I had cried a year ago. The same one where I made the decision to fight back. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. Thank you for today. The kids would not stop talking about how good the food was. And me? I cannot stop thinking about how lucky I am that you did not turn your back on me forever. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetie, I replied. Always. And it was true. despite everything, despite the pain, despite the betrayal. Because being a mother never turns off. But now I knew that being a mother did not mean being a doormat. I stood up. I walked over to the window. I watched the city light up against the night sky. And I remembered that sentence I had spoken a year ago, standing in the doorway of Chloe's house after a 10-hour flight. Perfect. Tomorrow I am going back to my house. Have a good trip. Those words had stopped everything. They had changed everything. Because for the first time in my life, I chose not to stay quiet. And that choice, however painful, had saved me. It had given me back to myself. Now, a year later, I was still in my small condo. I was still a seamstress. I still had a modest pension. But I had something far more valuable: dignity. And that, nobody could take away from me. Because I learned that sometimes the greatest act of love you can commit is showing someone that they cannot walk all over you, even if that someone is your own flesh and blood. And that saying no, setting boundaries, defending your space, is not selfish. It is survival. It is self-respect. It is remembering that you matter too. I pulled the curtains closed. I turned off the lights. And that night, I slept soundly. Because finally, after 67 years, I had learned the most important lesson of all. That loving others is fine. But losing yourself in the process, that is never, ever okay. And you? Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love? Have you ever felt used but did not know how to say no? Leave me your answer in the comments, and let me know where you are watching or listening to this story from. Your experience might help someone else going through the same thing. If this story touched your heart, if you felt every word as if it were your own, hit that like button. And if you think someone else needs to hear this message, share it. Because sometimes, hearing someone else's story gives us the courage we need to write our own. See you in the next story. And remember, your dignity is not for sale. It never was.